Welcome back to The Agent Within, where we break down how the latest technology is transforming the way we work, lead, and live. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Mark. Today we're tackling 3 AI concepts that are shaping the future: MCP, A to A, and Agentic AI. But before we tackle those topics, I thought it'd be a good idea to take a quick kind of 101 tour of how we got here.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do a quick 101, and then we can get to the newer advances we're seeing and explain them in simple everyday language. So, whether you're an AI pro or just curious, we've got you covered. And the story really starts in the early 2000s, and it was the machine learning foundations. That's when machine learning really hit the scene.
Yeah, for folks that don't really understand any of this, I think of machine learning as just about teaching computers to find patterns in data, like spotting fraud in transactions or recognizing simple speech, and doing it without writing every rule hand by hand.
Yeah, and back then engineers were still hand picking the features that went into a machine learning model. So think about edge detectors in an image, like where does the image start and stop? Um, and they ran models like decision trees or support vector machines on slower CPUs with smaller data sets. So these systems solve narrow problems really good, but we kind of hit a brick wall when the task got more complex.
Let's kind of move forward, Jeff, and as computer chips started processing things faster, I kind of think of moving from machine learning to deep learning.
Yeah, and that was, debatable, but kind of around 2012, the rise of that deep learning time period. And researchers discovered that training, deep neural networks on raw inputs. So raw input, what does that mean? Like millions of pixels or sound samples. And they started using graphics cards, GPUs. I don't think people understood that the GPUs were in use that far back, but it was a game changer.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And each layer in these networks learned its own features automatically, from the simple edges in the first layer to, full objects or words, and without engineers crafting them by hand.
Yeah, and by showing these networks tons of labeled examples, they tweak their internal dials whenever they were wrong, gradually getting better and better. I know we've all seen the captchas, pick the pictures with taxis. People may not have realized you were assisting in training some of these models.
It's crazy how the end-to-end learning approach brought such huge gains in accuracy for both vision and speech. And, deep learning became kind of the new standard.
Yeah.
So let's fast forward, start to move into, the next, I'd say, era, 2016, 2017. And I've heard that era is when we introduced the transformer, and it was built around an attention mechanism. Tell me more about that, Jeff.
Yeah. So the attention, what that means is think of attention as like a flashlight that can shine the light on just the most important words. And so it was kind of acted like that highlighter, and it could look at an entire paragraph and instead of looking word by word, look at a paragraph and just put the attention on the words that were the most significant.
What I heard, Jeff, was that the older models struggled with, really long passages, and it had to read text sequentially. It was slow and forgetful. But transformers process every word in parallel, so the learning relationships occur across the entire paragraph.
Yeah, exactly. And then after this pre-training on these massive sets of text, the models became aware of grammar and facts and some reasoning. So with just a little extra fine tuning, we were able to make them masters of translation or summarization or even Q&A. And then that obviously led us to the next kind of era, and we'll talk about large language models here. Um, it 2020, 2025 is kind of the time frame we're talking now. And this was really the LLMs, parameters, and agentic AI. So since 2020, large language models exist with billions of parameters, and we're finding them everywhere now.
So, as I understand it, a parameter is like a really tiny dial inside this AI model. And during the training, the large language models, the LLM, adjust the billions of these tiny dials so its output match the examples that it sees.
Yep.
Is that
And then
right?
also another thing of the usefulness of the parameters, it means more memory and flexibility to learn complex patterns. Think about vocabulary and facts and even subtle language rules.
And so, for folks that are following along, you've heard of ChatGPT or other vendors, Gemini, or there's uh, Copilot. All of these foundational models are now able to draft essays or write code and even generate images with amazing accuracy. And on top of those, engineers started layering agentic capabilities so AI could not just think, but could also begin to plan and act.
Yep. So that's the perfect segue to kind of where we find ourselves today. And it's that, emerging agentic AI framework with large language models. And so, here we are. It's where the hottest work is taking place, and it's in the agentic AI frameworks that let these LLMs, powered by agents, connect, collaborate, and take action. So,
So
Mark, before you jump, I know you want to get into some of the details of the frameworks. I thought it'd be interesting to just have a slide of, and about 2022, 2023, we found ourselves having these large language models like we've put OpenAI on the screen. And what customers did is they wrote UI. A lot of times it was web UI, and it was some kind of bot, and it was a custom API. And so you had a custom API connection over to a language model, and you can imagine multiple arrows going to different models. But that's how we started.
my recollection, Jeff, was that it was really hard to stitch it together. So let's start to get into the AI frameworks and maybe start with the Model Context Protocol, or MCP.
Yeah. So think of MCP as kind of like the universal plug or your USB port for AI models. And it's a standard way for AI to connect to different tools, different apps, and different systems. Kind of like your phone can connect to a Bluetooth speaker, or your keyboards can connect to your computer, because they all follow the same standard. So it's agents are now embracing the MCP protocol, and they are a client. There is an MCP server, and that's handling all those gory details of API connectivity. It's all standardized. And as the front end coder, you don't have to worry about that anymore.
So without MCP, every time you wanted an AI model to interact with the tool, like your calendar or a customer CRM, you'd have to build a custom solution from scratch, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we all thought that was still amazing. But with MCP, you don't even have to, do that. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. It gives these AI models a consistent way to plug into the external tools and functions, so they can not only, give you the answers you were seeking, but it can start to take actions like book an appointment or send a message or, update this record. Those are all examples of the tools.
And I think it also helps AI remember context over time, right? That's not its primary ability, But the real power of MCP is in making AI, practical, letting it connect and act and integrate easily with the tools you already use.
Yep, that's exactly right. So obviously, we started seeing the growth with this, the MCP technology. Now you can have an agent that's just focused on uh, subject matter or a task. So, on the screen we've got an agent that's a scheduler, and it's leveraging the MCP technologies to get to its data sources and knowledge bases on the internet that it needs. And then you could have another agent that's in charge of order status. You can imagine that there's a whole universe of these types of MCP clients getting formed up. So,
And the MCP server, just so I get this right, the MCP
yeah,
server is what is keeping track of all of these thousands upon thousands of agents, each with each agent having its own really unique function. And that server is, I think of it as kind of the bus that coordinates all of those things, almost like a workflow.
yep, but there's been more advances. So now let's talk about the A to A, and that stands for agent to agent. So there is the A2A protocol. It's short for agent to agent communication.
And this now is about AI systems being able to talk directly to each other without needing a human to act as the go-between for every step, right?
Yeah, exactly. So imagine that you have, one AI that monitors uh, quality. You have another AI that handles scheduling or order status. And with A to A, they can pass information and coordinate actions without you having to, do that handoff manually. And you can also leverage some of the MCP discovery services. So the agent to agent protocol really helps you understand what are the other agents that are out there that I could start leveraging.
It sounds like it's a relay team where, the runners are handing the baton to each other seamlessly, like, a way for AI to team with itself.
Yeah, exactly. So then you're kind of stealing my thunder, but if we take it to the next step, we start talking about that agentic layer. And so that's really where the relay team starts coming into play that you described. Um, this allows AI to plan, decide, and act toward a goal on its own.
So let me get this straight. Instead of just like answering questions, agentic AI allows AI to start to take initiative. Like it might detect that someone's falling behind on work and then suggest a break or reschedule a task or send an update to their manager without being told each individual thing to do.
Yeah,
Is
yep,
that
that's right. The 2 years ago, we had agents that you told them what to do, they could do it. It was fascinating technology then, and we thought we were on the bleeding edge. But what we've got now and what you just described, Mark, that's the difference between a smart assistant that waits for instructions and a digital team member that helps drive results proactively.
so? Kind of one more time to explain how these three pieces connect.
Yeah, so we've got MCP and it's the connector. So think of it like I said earlier, it's like the standard USB port. It lets AI systems tap into the right tools and apps and actions through a standard interface. You don't have to write custom API code every time. So that was number one. Number two was the A2A or agent to agent, and that's the communication layer. It allows all these different agents to collaborate and coordinate with each other. But then the third thing, the agentic AI, that's that action layer. Some people are going to draw similarities to like orchestration or orchestration engines, but it is that action layer and it uses the tools and partnerships to actually get things done.
So let me get this straight. In my lay terminology, MCP is the plumbing, so everything stays connected. And A2A is the teamwork, so that the systems know how to collaborate. And the agentic AI is the worker bee, so you actually get results.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Mark. So why don't we do this? Why don't we give like a real life example?
I
And
agree. Let's bring it to life, and I'll give you the example is take an AI human analytics platform and explain how this works.
okay, so at the MCP layer, the platform can connect to tools like email, chat, time tracking, or productivity software. So that's, it's connecting to all of these different agents. And then on the agent to agent layer, the example here, if you're wanting to talk human analytics, is let's say we've got one digital assistant that detects a pattern. Say there's low engagement by this employee. Then another AI can trigger coaching or recognition automatically. So it's almost like, Agent A is raising its hand and saying, hey, I see a pattern here. I've got some low engagement. And then it calls its other agent partner to take some action on that. And then when you make this agentic, when we bring that in, then the platform isn't just reporting this data. It's taking those proactive steps, like it's sending the motivational nudge to an employee, or it's scheduling some learning modules for that employee, or it's even can recommend workflow changes.
That is, amazing, right? And folks think it's science fiction, but I know it's happening today. And this is how we can allow AI to help people work smarter, not just work harder. A quick recap. MCP is AI that connects to tools and systems and allows you to scale. And then A to A is the AI that communicates and collaborates, and the agentic AI is the AI that actually acts towards whatever the goal is.
Yep. And then together they make AI more useful. It's more integrated, more capable of actually driving change without the, shiny object syndrome.
I think this is really, really cool stuff, but it's important to remember the future of AI isn't about replacing people, it's about empowering them, right? With the right connections, the right insights, and actions at the right time.
Yep. We live in a fascinating time, and it's going to be an amazing next 5 years. Um, thanks for joining us on the Agent Within today. We're going to continue to be touching on all things AI. So be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time. See you soon.